All the thoughts just flew out of my head. Hello and welcome back to my channel, All the Stories. Today I will be recommending some books by some black authors. It is February. February is Black History Month. If you don't know, where have you been? But now you know. Okay, so I wanted to film a video where I specifically recommended books by black authors because I know a lot of people tend to pick up books by black authors more so during February than any other month, even though you should be reading books by black authors every single month of the year. But I did want to do a specific recommendations video. So if you were looking for some new authors or looking for some books you want to try or looking and trying to decide, you know, just had the urge to read some books by some black authors, here's some of the ones that I've read and enjoyed. So the first book I'm going to talk about is actually a book I've talked about a million times, and I could not include it on this list even though I talked about it a million times. It's like one of my favorite books, and it is what it is. So it's right here. If you don't know, where have you been? The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter was my favorite book of 2020. It's one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite book of all time. I love it so much. So this is going to be the first book I'm recommending you guys out of this list. If you don't pick anything else up, read The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This book is amazing. It follows a main character, Tal, who just wants to settle down and marry his sweetheart and have a family with her, and he can't do that because this society is perpetually at war. They've been at war for like over 100 years. I want to say it's like 180 something years they've been at war with these other people, and every able-bodied man needs to be a soldier, needs to participate in the war effort, and Tao just doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be separated from this girl. He doesn't want to go fight in this war because odds are he's going to die in this war before he ever has a chance to come home and settle down. So he doesn't want this life, so he decides he's going to purposefully get injured so he can retire and go back and be with his girl until something tragic happens, and Tao decides that instead of doing that, he has to become the biggest, the best fighter ever in order to avenge this wrong that has been done. And it's a revenge story, and it's the war, and it's black fantasy, and it's just so much. It's so amazing, and I just love the series with all my heart. I love the second book, which is also right here, The Fires of Vengeance, as well, and I can't wait for the next book because I know it is going to destroy me, and I just can't wait. I'm enjoying every second of it, and yeah, read The Rage of Dragons. I can't say it any other way. I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it a million more times. Read this book. So another book, and that is an adult fantasy. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this next book is a YA fantasy, and it was also one of my favorite books of 2020, and that was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book is a YA fantasy following our main character, Bree, and Bree has just lost her mother, and she is still reeling from this loss and trying to deal with this new grief, and she is in the early admissions program at UNC Chapel Hill. So she goes off to college, and she is 16. So she goes into college, and there she discovers the secret society, and she finds out that the society may have something to do with her mother's death. So she decides to go undercover and infiltrate the society, and it's just so much more than that. It's about Bree, and it's about her history and her heritage and her past, and discovering all these things she didn't know, and discovering all these things about herself, and it was so amazing. I highly recommend. I can't wait for book 2. And the magic system in this book is also based in Arthurian mythology, you know, King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, but it's also based in black culture and black history as well. So that was an interesting kind of, you know, mixture of things that you draw strength from that was explored in this book, and I loved it. Another book that I read last year that I really enjoyed was Slay by Brittany Morris. This is a YA contemporary story following a main character who has designed a video game, and the video game is supposed to be a safe space for black gamers, and it is only like there's a passcode that you can give to people and they can discover the game. And one day the public finds out about this video game after one of the users is killed over a kind of like a feud that was going on in the game or a problem that occurred in the game. The person was killed in real life over it, so the game hits the news and people are discovering this game. And it deals with our main character, who is the creator of the game, dealing with a lot of backlash from it. No one knows she particularly is the creator of the game, but she's dealing with a lot of backlash from the media saying the game is racist because only black users can log in, and it was a lot going on. But I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed our main character. She was amazing, and this was my first book by Brittany Morris. I cannot wait to read more from her because I really enjoyed this. The only thing that kind of got me out of it just a little bit, there's a lot of pop culture references in this, and I can deal. I'm not someone that hates pop culture references in books. I can deal, and it's not that bad, and I don't mind it. It's not my favorite, but I don't mind it. But if you do mind it, you may not want to pick this up because it is full of pop culture references, because the game in and of itself is based around pop culture references. Like, it's like a card type dueling virtual game, and the cards are all black pop culture references or black history. Not all pop culture, some of it is black history, but they're all rooted in all things black. And yeah, so if you don't like that in your books, you might find this one a little cringy, but I still recommend it because it's still a great story. Another book I believe you should try is Be Deep by Rivers Solomon. This one is very short. It is a novella. It's only 150 something pages, but it packs a emotional punch. Like, this book will have you wanting to cry or crying because it is just so heavy and so it makes you so emotional. But this book follows our main character Yetu. Her people are the Wanjiru. I believe I said that right. I listened to the audiobook for this and I highly recommend it. It was narrated by Daveed Diggs, and he is one of the inspirations behind the story. So he is the narrator of it, and a lot of people may know him from Hamilton. But Daveed Diggs narrates this, and it is so good. Yetu is the historian of her people, and she keeps their collective memories. Her people, the Wanjiru, don't really remember their past because she holds all of their shared collective memories of all the historians before her, and everyone else kind of just lives in the moment. And it's about her struggling under the weight of all of these things that she remembers, because the Wanjiru are the descendants of the African slave women who were thrown overboard off the slave ships that were coming from Africa to the Americas. The pregnant slave women that were thrown overboard, the children in their unborn children, kind of in the water, kind of evolved or metamorphosized and became mer people and survived underwater and became this whole new society of mer people that live underwater that descended from these black slave women. So the collective memories that she has are the memories of her foremothers and their struggles and their pain, and it's just dealing with her, like, it's just dealing with her crumbling under the weight of all this trauma and pain. And it goes into a lot of what it takes to deal with trauma, the different ways people deal with trauma, or and specifically black trauma. And it was so good. I highly recommend this. It was unlike anything I've ever read before, and it will just have you in tears. Next, I have The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. This was the very first N.K. Jemisin book I ever read, and I do plan on reading her 5th season books soon because a lot of people recommend those, but I haven't read those yet. But I did enjoy The 100,000 Kingdoms. This is the first book in the Inheritance trilogy. I've read the first 2 books, and they were both very good, and I cannot wait to read more from her because her writing is amazing. But this book in particular deals with our main character, Een. I don't know if that's how you say her name. Her mother has just died, and she finds out that her mother was from, or not finds out, I believe she already knew, but her mother was from this very powerful ruling family in this world. So after her mother's death, she is summoned to come live with her mother's side of the family because she is in line to become one of the heirs. And she also is trying to figure out the cause of her mother's death because she doesn't believe it was a natural death. She believes her mother was murdered. And it's also her dealing with the gods, because in this world gods walk among us, and the main god that we are kind of dealing with in this book is Nahadath, and he is the Night Lord. He is the god of night, and he has been enslaved by these humans to do their bidding, and it deals with him and Een, and it's just so good. The way N.K. Jemisin writes gods and the way she depicts gods in this book is just so good. It'll have you on the edge of your seat the entire time, and I just highly recommend N.K. Jemisin in general. because her writing is amazing. So this next book I'm recommending, I'm particularly recommending the audiobook of this, and that is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. I read this last year, and this book was so good. It was another one where I highly recommend the audiobook because the author herself narrates the audiobook, and her narration is perfection. This is another one that will have you almost in tears. It follows our main character, and it's also somewhat autobiographical because the main character we're following in the book is Echo Brown, and this book is based on her life. This book follows our main character Echo, essentially from her childhood where she's like 4 or 5 up until the point where she's 18, and it just follows her life and follows all the struggles she goes through as a young black girl. Particularly living in a poor neighborhood. Her parents are addicts, and it's just about her dealing with all the things that go on in her life and all the things that happen to her and to her family and her brothers. And it is another one that is just about so much that you can't even describe it. It's so much that is discussed, and there's so much that is touched on, and there's so much that is I don't know. I can't even put into words. But this book does, I don't need to put into words because this book puts it into words for you because it is just an amazing, amazing thing. And it's also somewhat magical realism because Echo has like these powers. The title is literally Black Girl Unlimited, the remarkable story of a teenage wizard. So she finds out that she is a wizard, but not like your typical wizard, like your typical wizarding books. It's different. So I can't even explain it. It's just different, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, if you listen to this, I highly recommend you going the audiobook route because it is just so her reading of it is just so powerful and so immersive that I couldn't imagine reading this any other way. Another book I have to recommend is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, and it takes place over the course of one day, 24 hours, and it is just amazing. It is a contemporary romance story, and it follows two main characters, Natasha and Daniel. Natasha is the child of immigrants. Her parents immigrants from Jamaica, and she is here in New York City, and her family is about to be deported back to Jamaica, and she is trying to stop it, so she is trying to get a stay on their deportation, and she meets Daniel on this day, her last day here in New York, and they have this little love story. So obviously, since it takes place over one day, this is very much insta love, and I don't typically like insta love, but the way this was done was just amazing. I loved Nicole. I was gonna say Nicole. It's not her name. I loved Natasha and Daniel. They were just amazing, and Daniel is just like the sweetest little being ever. He's like a ray of sunshine, and Natasha is kind of like cynical, and it was just this very cute little mix between them. There's also a movie adaptation of this book, and I highly recommend the movie adaptation because it is also very good. The main character Natasha is played by all the thoughts just flew out of my head. Yara Shahidi. Natasha is played by Yara Shahidi, and it's just an amazing, amazing cast of characters. The casting was very well done for the movie. And the last book I have to recommend is Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. This book was so sweet and wholesome. It was a kind of like time travel, time loop contemporary story where our main character meets this girl at a house party, and they kind of like hit it off and they start dating, and he finds out that she has like a terminal disease, and she ends up dying, and then as soon as she dies, time rewinds and he is at the house party again, and he meets her again, and then he keeps living the same couple of weeks, I think, it's like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and he keeps reliving it and reliving it and reliving it, and every time at the end after she dies, he is sent back to the house party, and he realizes that he is stuck in this time loop until he figures out a way to save her life. And it was so cute. I love it, and I love this cover. My ring light is giving you a horrible glare, but this cover is beautiful. And I just love the story so much. It was so cute. So that is it for these recommendations. However, there are a ton more books. That was by far no comprehensive list of all the amazing books by Black authors out there. As you can see, I shifted my camera angle so you can see more of these two shelves. These two shelves, every book on these two shelves are books by Black authors. Every book on the shelf right here is a book by a Black author. So like any books on here like would be amazing. Like Angie Thomas, all of her books are amazing. I haven't read Concrete Roads yet, but you know, Children of Blood and Bone, all of N.K. Jemison's books, like just all of these books are amazing. So just go out there, find one that fits you, and please, please, please read more books by Black authors. Also, in the comments down below, I would like you to recommend me some books by Black authors because, of course, I don't know every book. So if there are books based off these books you saw me recommend, if you think there's a book out there you think I would like, please recommend it down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!